Most people carry one belief through their entire career, and it is the belief that costs them the most, that if something genuinely unfair happens at work, the law will catch it. That is not completely wrong. Anti-discrimination statutes, wage and hour rules, whistleblower shields, they exist, they have teeth.
But between what is clearly illegal and what is clearly fair, there is a gray zone the size of an ocean. And inside that gray zone, companies do not stumble around hoping for the best. They engineer policies, paperwork, and process.
By the time you realize you are in trouble, the paperwork is already ahead of you. They do not need to break the rules, they build around them. And most workers never see the architecture until it is already above their heads.
The foundation is at will employment. Either side can end the relationship at any time for any reason not explicitly illegal. Sounds mutual. In practice, one side has a paycheck to offer, and the other has a mortgage to cover. What at will gives employers is a permanent exit lane.
They do not need a good reason. They need a legal one. And the distance between good and legal is where careers get quietly erased. Not the right fit anymore. The role is evolving. We are restructuring. Those are not explanations. They are exit vocabulary, designed to end your employment without creating a liability.
Nobody tells you this on your first day. They save the language for your last one. So your counter starts before you ever need one. From week 1, save every email that praises your work. Log every project you deliver. If great job ever quietly becomes not meeting expectations, the only version that matters is the one on paper.
Right now, the company is the only side writing it. That leads into performance management turned into a weapon. In a healthy workplace, feedback helps you grow. In one that has already decided your future, feedback builds the file that justifies it.
Watch the pattern. You push back on something, then the temperature changes. Your manager starts documenting things never mentioned before. HR gets quietly copied on routine emails. You get a calendar invite labeled check-in with no agenda. And by the end of it, there is a written summary you did not write, sitting in your inbox.
You can feel it shifting, but you cannot point to one thing that is clearly wrong. That is by design. Then the PIP arrives. Not every PIP is a loaded weapon. Some companies use them honestly. But when one shows up right after a disagreement, when the targets are vague or conveniently unmeasurable, that document is not about helping you succeed. It is about making your removal look like your fault. Your move. Respond to every piece of feedback in a calm email. Ask what measurable success looks like. Make them put it on the record.
A PIP with no clear metrics is not a plan. It is a countdown. Now, money. A staggering number of workers believe being salaried means no overtime. That is not always the case.
Eligibility depends on your classification, exempt or non-exempt, based on what you actually do, not what your title says. Exempt employees must meet duties test and salary thresholds set by federal and sometimes state law, and those thresholds change.
A fancy title can be cheaper than overtime. Think about the person called a shift manager, who spends the entire day on the floor covering registers, stocking shelves, following instructions from above, managing no one.
That title is not a promotion. It is a classification strategy. Independent contractor misclassification works the same way. A company controls your hours, methods, and tools, but on paper, you are a contractor. No benefits, no protections, no employment taxes on their end. So keep a record that mirrors reality, not the job description. Your hours, your actual duties, who tells you what to do and when. What you are called and what you actually do are often two different things, and only one matters in a dispute.
Before you ever had a workplace dispute, you may have already agreed to have it decided in private. It happens on your first day. Somewhere in the onboarding stack, there is an arbitration clause.
If a dispute arises, you will not go to court. You will go to a private process, a single decision maker, often selected through a system the company has used many times and you have never seen.
Arbitration is not inherently corrupt, but it is a different battlefield, and you did not choose it. You signed it while filling out your emergency contacts. Exceptions exist depending on jurisdiction and claim type, but they are narrower than most people hope.
Read what you sign during onboarding. Every page. That stack of forms is not administrative, it is contractual. And the rights you give away on day one are the ones you will miss most on your worst day.
When the end comes, it often comes with an envelope. Severance. The word itself is part of the strategy. It sounds like a parting gift. It is not. Severance is not the company saying sorry. It is the company pricing your silence and your speed. In exchange for a few weeks or months of pay, you waive your right to sue, agree not to disparage the company, and sometimes accept a non-disclosure clause.
And in that exact moment, someone slides a document across the table. They know what you are feeling. The timeline is not a courtesy, it is leverage. Some rights cannot be waived, no matter what a document says. But those protections are easy to miss when fear is doing the thinking.
Never sign the day it is handed to you. Take it home. Read every paragraph. The company had lawyers write it. You are allowed to have someone read it too. Layoffs carry their own mythology. The biggest myth is that companies always have to warn you. The WAR Act does require certain employers to give 60 days notice before mass layoffs or plant closings, but certain is doing heavy work in that sentence. The law has thresholds tied to company size and workers affected. Many layoffs fall below them entirely. Exceptions exist for unforeseen business circumstances. Thousands of workers lose their jobs every year with no notice, and none of it violates a single statute. One of the most effective tools does not appear in any handbook. It lives in culture, the unspoken rule that you do not talk about what you earn. Here's what they are counting on you not knowing. In the United States, the National Labor Relations Act protects most private sector employees' right to discuss pay with each other. Policies that silence those conversations may themselves be unlawful, but the cultural shame works. People stay quiet, and silence is the cheapest inequality tool a company has. You cannot negotiate from a position you cannot see. So talk not out of envy, out of self-defense. Every salary conversation you have with a colleague is a data point the company was hoping you would never collect.
Leave and accommodation laws are real. The FMLA provides eligible workers with job-protected leave. The ADA requires reasonable accommodations. But here is how friction replaces denial. You submit a request. The form comes back incomplete. Not rejected, just insufficient. You resubmit. A week passes. Your manager's tone shifts. A comment about coverage challenges. The paperwork multiplies.
None of this may be a clear violation on its own, but the cumulative effect is not accidental. It is designed to make exercising your rights feel like more trouble than it is worth. They do not need to say no. They just need you to stop asking. So you make it harder to ignore than to process. Every request in writing, dated, using the language that makes it official. Every response saved somewhere they cannot edit. That is how you outlast a system built on hoping you will give up. Retaliation. This is what happens when the company realizes you stop being easy to manage. The risk does not peak when you stay quiet. It peaks the moment you use the rights everyone told you that you had. You file a complaint. You request an accommodation. You push back, and then the environment shifts. Not dramatically, carefully. You get moved to a different shift, quietly pulled from a visible project. The meeting invites stop. Your performance rating drops a full level 6 weeks after you raise the concern, written by the same manager who gave you top marks the quarter before. Retaliation is illegal in many contexts, but it is almost never obvious because obvious is risky, deniable is safe. The harder something is to prove, the more freely it gets done. So you build the record while it is happening. Dates, screenshots, before and after. You are the only one who can make the pattern visible.
Non-compete agreements deserve a word because the ground is moving. For years, non-competes restricted where you could work after leaving, even for workers with no access to trade secrets worth protecting. Some jurisdictions have moved to limit or ban them, but this area of law varies sharply by state and is actively evolving. Do not assume the when you signed is dead.
Do not assume it will hold either. Get specific guidance for your jurisdiction. In this area, confidence without specifics can get expensive. So here is what you walk away with. Not legal advice. A defensive operating system. Read everything before you sign it. Every offer letter, every handbook acknowledgement, every arbitration agreement buried between your tax forms.
Document from day one the emails, the reviews, the praise, the promises. Not because you are paranoid, but because you are building the only record that is actually yours.